Hello everyone, Nerdy Steve here, and today I will be playing a black-red sack deck in Alchemy. The list is in the description below. I'm going to talk a little bit about the plan of the deck, and then we'll play a couple of games. So, let's go. First caveat here, I'm doing Alchemy on the channel right now because the standard ban list isn't updated until tomorrow, or in 2 days, so we're going to be doing other stuff until then. So, this deck really is a focus on Sanguine Brushstroke, which when it enters the battlefield, it creates a blood token and a blood artist. And from that point on, whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you deal 1 damage to your opponent. And with the blood artist on the battlefield, whenever another creature dies, you drain your opponent for 1 life. And this deck is kind of built around maximizing the Sanguine Brushstroke as much as we possibly can. So we have a lot of vampires that make blood tokens, like Bloodtithe Harvester and Vampire Epicure. And we also have a lot of creatures that can be sacked over and over again via the Oni-Cult Anvil. We have Shambling Ghast that can be sacked to Deadly Dispute, and Deadly Dispute can draw us more cards to find more things to sacrifice, more creatures that make blood, and more Sanguine Brushstrokes, right? And so the deck is kind of just really low to the ground and very tight to filter as much as possible to get all these triggers as much as we possibly can. It is kind of like a control combo deck. We do have some very aggressive starts. A turn 2 Bloodtithe Harvester can really kill people surprisingly fast. But in our ideal game, we kill our opponent's creatures with, Shambling Ghast and Voltage Surge and Infernal Grasp, or, wipe the board with the Meathook Massacre. And we try to find 1 or 2 Sanguine Brushstrokes to just then kill our opponent over the course of a couple turns. Or there are times where you could have 2 Sanguine Brushstrokes out with 2 Blood Artists, and you can cast Meathook Massacre, and you win on the spot. Now, with all that being said, let's go see if we can do that. Also, if you haven't already, you should totally like, comment, and subscribe. That's a great way to help support me and this channel. If you have any deck suggestions, please let me know. I am always looking for more things to play. And I have a Twitch if you want to watch me play live Magic. And I have a Metafy if you're interested in coaching. Those links are down below. Now, thank you for watching, and let's play some games. Alright, we'll keep this hand. We are currently rank 9 on the ladder. I'm very upset. We've been like 12-1 since we got to like rank 4 or something like that. And we've just like been moving down the ranking, which happens. So we're gonna take a lot of damage here for the first couple of turns. Again, we don't mind taking Sulfurous Springs damage because we have a lot of ways to gain life, and I want to ensure that the Haunted Ridge comes onto the battlefield untapped on the 3rd turn. So that's why we're taking all this damage, which, is a little unfortunate, but it's okay. We're going to Bloodtithe Harvester on turn 2 over the Oni-Cult Anvil. Now, we could Oni-Cult Anvil and sack the blood and start that drain going and get the creatures and everything. But I like Bloodtithe Harvester because... Oh, wow. Now I regret that. But in general, I like the Bloodtithe Harvester there. Just because it allows us to deal more damage to our opponent. Now, granted... Wrong choice in retrospect, but hopefully we'll be fine. So one of the cool things about this deck is that it's very resilient to, mana flood and... drawing badly because there are so many cards and things that you can cycle with Experimental Frenzy, with Voltage, or with the blood tokens, right? So it's all very it's just a very consistent deck. We're gonna Voltage Surge the Gardener, getting rid of a Synthesizer. And then we'll cast this. We only have a Shambling Ghast we can play now. Alright, so we're going to lose the Sanguine Brushstroke, and that's a little unfortunate, but it's whatever. One of the things about Experimental Synthesizer that it's very hard to understand or get sometimes is that the card you it's kind of like milling yourself. The card you exile is always an upside card, and like you want to be able to cast it because it's free, and if you're not casting or playing the land, right, you aren't getting the full benefit out of it. The Experimental Synthesizer, and then when you exile a card that you really want to cast, it's like, oh wow, I just wasted it and I shouldn't have done it anyway. But when you exile the top card of your library or mill it, right, it is a random card. And if you don't cast it, it's no different than that card being at the bottom of your library, right? And it's a really weird thing for a lot of people to wrap their mind on, but we're not going to be sad about that losing that Sanguine Brushstroke, because you know what? We could have very easily not have drawn it anyway. So now what is our opponent doing? I haven't even really talked about what's going on with our opponent's deck, and I don't really know. It seems like they're a back alley Gardener deck, which is interesting. We could Meathook for 4, but I don't know if that does anything for us, honestly. What I'm going to do is activate Dockside Chef to sacrifice a construct. I want to see what I draw here. Alright, I'm going to play that, and then I'm going to Infernal Grasp the back alley Gardener. I don't want our opponent to gain a lot of life or anything. And then we'll say go. Now, I also could have potentially, and maybe I should have, gotten more damage to our opponent by Infernal Grasping the back alley and then attacking with my constructs, sacrificing construct our opponent blocked, and we would have dealt more damage. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I do not have, frankly, the time to discuss all the different lines because there's a lot of considerations here. So I'm trying. And so it looks like our opponent is some type of very big deck. So what I'm going to do is just block here, sack to Dockside Chef. Now, if we do get a... do I want to drain my opponent? I don't know. If we do get a Sanguine Brushstroke, we might be able to win. Ooh, let's see what we get here. Ooh, Oni-Cult's hot. We'll do that to get the top card. Let's see what we get here. I want to activate the Xander's Wake. And I'm doing that now because I don't feel particularly scared or threatened by what our opponent is doing. But maybe I should be. Yeah, no, it looks like our opponent doesn't necessarily have the most competitive deck right now. So I think we might be a very, very fine thing. Just a general Cabaret Rebels, not really any life gain or anything going on here. So hopefully I don't lose, because that'd be a little upsetting. So what I want to do here is 1, 1, 1. Oh, I meant to sacrifice one of those things to Oni-Cult Anvil. So that was a little bad. So now what we can do here is this will drain our opponent for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, I think we have the game here. So I'm going to go into full control, and then we get to Meathook Massacre for 4. With Meathook Massacre on the battlefield and its ability on the stack, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter here, but I'm going to do activate the Oni-Cult Anvils, which will create 3 more tokens. Drain our opponent for 1 from itself and 1 from the Meathook. And our opponent is very dead here. GG. So what we're going to do here in the sideboard is we know our opponent is a Revels deck, so I kind of want to bring in the Invoke. And whenever I bring in Invoke or things that cost a lot more, I want to take out the Synthesizer because, you know, we want to lessen the failures on that card. And then I have to figure out what else we want to do and what we expect our opponent to be doing. I kind of want more interaction here, because I think our opponent could potentially go off a little early. So I'm bringing in Infernal Grasp and the Voltage Surge and taking out the Sheoldred. Though Sheoldred might be pretty decent here. Like, Sheoldred's never really bad, but I think it's just less impactful here. Alright, this is fine. Again, obviously nothing too great or incredible or groundbreaking, but we can keep a 5-card hand because we have Fable of the Mirror Breaker in our hand. So on our 4th turn, after when the second stage goes to resolve, we can discard 2 lands, right? And with the Deadly Dispute in our hand, this is just not something we really want to mulligan. Getting a Infernal Grasp there is really good because now we have interaction, and the Sanguine Brushstroke is exactly what we want. You also, in general, for Forsaken Crossroads, you want to do it for black. And the reason is because we have Invoke, it's very, very important to be able to get all that mana. And because we do have a Mountain and a Sokenzan in our hand, we don't want to, you know, on the 5th turn, have 2 red mana and 3 black sources. It's something that has very often gotten me. So it's something I'm very cognizant of. Our opponent has the Citizen's Crowbar, which can get rid of the Fable, but we're kind of fine with that. Look, and there is the Invoke. We're going to attack. Create a treasure. We're going to Forsaken Crossroads for black, and then we will scry, because we're going to tap out for Sanguine Brushstroke and don't need the extra mana. Even though potentially, if we did untap, we would be able to Infernal Grasp whatever our opponent does, or have mana up to Deadly Dispute. So maybe I could have done that, which, hey, in retrospect, that may have been good. I still value the Scry very highly, but well, because we'll always have other things to Deadly Dispute, but that could be very, very wrong. So our opponent has Social Climber. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, gain 1 life. I don't care if our opponent blocks here. Maybe we should have done this pre-combat as well, because we missed the drain, but I didn't know what our opponent was going to do. Alright, our opponent is a Devilish Valet combo deck, it looks like, which is kind of really good to know. They can kind of win out of nowhere by doubling its power very, very high. It looks like our opponent's stuck on 3 lands, though. So I think we might be in the clear. We're gonna untap, and then we're gonna invoke our opponent. And then we say go. Back Alley Gardener, yep. We can invoke again for opponent. 2, let's... We're playing the Mountain there because now we don't necessarily need all that black mana. We're going to Oni and trigger the Oni by sacrificing a blood, which will drain our opponent for 2. Then deal 1 more with the Oni trigger. We do not want to attack. And now if we untap, we have our opponent dead in so many ways. Now our opponent didn't really have a lot going on here, but... it's fine. And very dead. And GG. Let's see what rank we end up becoming. Still 9. Okay, we're going against a number 4 player, so this is going to be very, very interesting. So let's not mess up, please. Now, this is actually a really interesting turn. I could Experimental Synthesizer on turn 1 and start trying to get, you know, Oni-Cult activations on turn 2, but I don't think we need to go there yet. And I have no idea if our opponent's on Esper. Our opponent could very easily be on Esper. So I am going to Experimental Synthesize here. Because if we get a land, that's really, really great. Oh, beautiful. And then I will Xander's Wake. Our opponent could have the counter spell on turn 2. That, I forget what it's called, but they didn't. And so right here, I'm not going to try and make a blood token yet. Or a creature by sacrificing the synthesizer. Because I think it is much more beneficial to us to wait. Looks like our opponent's probably on some type of Esper deck. I would assume with Diviner, but it could just be a blue-black control deck. Alright, let's do this. We have a bunch of creatures now. We got the Infernal Grasp, which sadly won't do anything. So I'm going to do this. That Acquisitions Expert's going to be really, really good next turn, I think. I could go for it now, but part of me wants to wait to Deadly Dispute. Again, I don't know what to expect from our opponent, so it looks like it is an Esper deck, so I'm assuming there is going to be a Diviner. And if our opponent does have the Diviner, ooh. We'll get rid of the Acquisitions Expert here, because I want a Deadly Dispute. We could have potentially Deadly Disputed in response, and tried to get a big casting cost card with Xander's Wake, like the Tidebearer Giant. We didn't, but that's fine. Alright. So now we have the Infernal Grasp, which I want to keep up to kill a Diviner in response to them casting it. So what I'm going to do here first is... we have a lot of ways to potentially spend our mana. And what we want to do. I'm going to... red. See what we get with the Synthesizer. Got that. Let's get the Sanguine Brushstroke out. Because now we can start draining our opponent. And now our opponent's in a little bit of a... I wouldn't say like a rough spot, but not an ideal spot, right? I won't Expert yet. I think I still want to keep the Infernal Grasp up. Now, there is a lot of stuff our opponent could have that could really mess us up. Specifically, like temporary lockdown, right? Again, we do not care about this, as we will discard a Horde Robber very easily. We will do this, drain our opponent. Aerialist, maybe? Let's see what we get with the synthesizer here. We got an Epicure. And then I'm going to use the... Oh, I guess we don't need to do that now. Oh, no, we do, because we want the Xander's Wake trigger. But now our Aerialist is huge. And I think we can still just say go. Opponent's been missing land drops a lot. And this is the Diviner, which I wanted to get rid of here. Our opponent could activate a Blood in response, which will allow them to discard a card with the Diviner on the battlefield. And our opponent had Essence Scatter, and maybe all of our Oni-Cult Anvils and Synthesizer and Xander's Wake were playing around it earlier. So that's kind of funny. That being said, our opponent needs something really, really good here to win, because our Bloodthirsty Aerialist is gonna kill them. So here, I want the Invoke Despairs as a 4 of, and then there's a lot to go in. We didn't get to see what type of deck they were. I think in general, I kind of like Viconia. I like Grasp, and I like Surge. But there's just a lot of things we don't know here. I think we can take out the Chef. Meathook isn't particularly wonderful here because we aren't really killing their things. I don't know if I like Fable of the Mirror Breaker either. And Xander's Wake is, again, a little... You know, and Shambling Ghast also isn't particularly wonderful either. Yeah, I don't like Sheoldred. I like Will more than Sheoldred, because Will can steal stuff from our opponent, and that can be very, very good. And I think I want to get rid of the Meathook Massacre. Obviously, my sideboarding is not an exact science, so... We didn't see a lot of our opponent's deck. The thing with the Diviners is, right, there's a lot of things that can be going on there. Like, I don't want Omnixilus. We'll try one Fable. One Fable is fine, right? Now, unlike Game 1, though, in Game 2, I expect our opponent to have a lot more interaction for all of our permanents and stuff. Specifically, Temporary Lockdown. And that's why we bring in the Invokes. And maybe even Negate or that counter spell. The blue-black counter spell as opposed to Essence Scatter. We will Oni-Cult Anvil. And say go. We could keep the Infernal Grasp up. We decided not to. But we could have. And oh, I was gonna be like, this is such a great draw for us. Because we want to do something our turn. But I don't know if I wanted to Sanguine Brushstroke, because I do want to keep the Infernal Grasp up to stop our opponent from divining. So I'm not going to even activate the Oni here, because I think I might want to use that blood for something else, potentially. Reckoner Bankbuster. That was not a card I was expecting. So now I will Deadly Dispute the blood away. And our opponent does have a counterspell. Okay. And we're gonna just... We're attacking, and we want to activate the Oni-Cult this turn. And I'm gonna get rid of the Grasp now. And the reason why I'm getting rid of the Grasp here is we kind of have our engine going, and Diviner of Fate is a lot less scary for us this late into the game. It's still, like, obviously not ideal. We want our opponent to, you know, have 5 cards in hand that are lands, right? But I am kind of okay right now. What we're really truly worried about is a Farewell next turn. And some of these decks have that. So what I'm going to do is attack for 2. Alright. Ooh. So what our opponent did here is Callum the Voldaren Epicure. And that means we can Deadly Dispute and sacrifice the Epicure. And because it is no longer on the battlefield, the Callum won't let our opponent draw a card here. Yeah, now our opponent did have a counterspell, right? But our opponent won't draw a card. Which is not something our opponent probably wanted to do. Like, they didn't know that we had the Deadly Dispute, right? But... And a land Farewell would be pretty bad here. But our opponent really needs the Farewell. Otherwise, it's going to end very, very badly in a couple turns. Ooh. Lias is very good against us because we no longer get the death triggers from Blood Artist. So that is a little unfortunate. I think I want to... But we will get the triggered abilities from sacrificing blood. Lias is very, very good against us, so... So we'll see what happens here. Alright, Lizelle is not something I really want to see either. But I think we might be okay. Opponent's attacking for 4. We go to 8. Alright. So let's Deadly Dispute away a blood token. Or we will attack for 3. Whatever our opponent blocks with Lizelle, we'll sacrifice. Now, the unfortunate part here, again, is Liesa stops our Xander's Wake from triggering because our creatures do not die. Now we're 1 more blood away from killing the Liesa. Permanent with mana value 3 or less. Could be a temporary lockdown, everyone. And in that case... Uh-oh. Okay. Now... there's a lot going on here. And we also have no idea what our opponent could have, what type of interaction is there. We know our opponent likely has... I would assume a Diviner of Fates in hand. Oh, a Viconia. Okay. That's probably what was gotten with the Lae'zel. Okay. What I want to do here is we don't know what our opponent has, right? If our opponent has counter magic, we want to Voltage Surge the Liesa first. So then we don't sacrifice the Bloodtithe Harvester and then Voltage Surge the Liesa and our opponent counters it and we're down that. If our opponent has creature kill, we want to Voltage Surge we want to Bloodtithe Harvester first and then Voltage Surge. And I have no idea what we're trying to play around here. And so what I'm first going to do... is this. Okay. All right. Let's attack for 4. And see what happens. Opponent goes to 9 here. Our opponent's at 5. And GG. Woo! And we're back to 7. Good job. Well, everyone, thank you for watching me play some Oni-Cult Anvil in Alchemy. I love this deck. It is one of my favorite decks. Like, I've been playing it for basically the entire year. You know, it's great. I love it. I hope the games were interesting and fun. Specifically, that second match, I felt it just feels good to play and have your plan come together and everything to work out. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it because I absolutely did too. If you haven't already, you should totally like, comment, or subscribe. You could also follow me and watch me play live at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve. I also do coaching if you're interested in that. All those links are down below. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.